So today's session we will do on ETL testing training. Let's move on to something about myself. So I am having 7 years of experience in ETL and data warehouse testing till now. And apart from ETL, I have also experience in other domains such as automation testing, API testing, database, and also I have some hands-on experience with data visualization science. And I have worked on multiple real-time projects that involves various domains like retail, banking, insurance, pharma, and also some subdomains like credit insurance, which I worked very recently. So our today's topic, ETL testing, we will mainly focus on basically the outline and the overview. So first we can begin with scope of today's session. So the scope of today's session is, first we will learn about the basics of ETL concepts, and then identifying the ETL basics in comparison with the real world scenarios, then learning the database with practical queries that I can show you some snapshots, or I can show you maybe directly the tool itself in SQL Developer, where we will know about the queries and the results. Next, we can go on to building the basic SQL queries in the tool, along with an overview into the advanced queries. So our basic SQL queries will allow us to progress into the advanced one, that is a combination of the basic. And then we can move on to validation in ETL testing, which is an important part in ETL. Then the whole architecture of how the ETL process works. And then we can move on to functionality and understanding the mapping documents that are used in real-time projects. Those are the basic documents that must be followed in order to adhere to the project processes and methodologies. It's like the basic ethics while we are doing a real-time project in an organization. Then we can also move on to implementation of different SCD types and validation of schema tables. Schema and SCD are important parts in ETL. And after that, we can also learn how to build queries which will be used for the BI reports. BI means business intelligence reports. That is also an important part of ETL testing. And after that, we can move on to overview of Informatica tool, just like giving summary how Informatica tool works and how Informatica tool processes data and it processes results. Just the understanding of the architecture and few basic elements in the tool that will allow us to function it. And we can also we will be building the base for the knowledge that will be required during the interviews. If you are applying for a position of an ETL testing or anything related to ETL, this knowledge that you gained in this course will help you a lot. And at the end, we can move on to the practice questions to test how you are really doing and how is your progress in tandem with the course, and are you able to keep up the pace with the course or not. And also we will have some mock interview to test the candidates to see how they are faring according to the industry standards when they will be facing real life interviews in organizations. So this is basically the scope of today's demo. After this, we can move on to the course outline. The course outline is basically consists of 4 main topics. First is the ETL basics with concepts and practical examples, and how ETL is used practically in the real-time projects and how it benefits the organization in doing business. And it creates a structure, a whole new structure where developers, testers, they work in relation to each other to make the project successful, where we will be building queries or SQL queries in the SQL developer tool. And after that, we will be using those developed queries for BI reporting, which is business intelligence reporting. And at the end, the practice test and the interview questions We will look at some interview questions that will help you to gain experience into ETL testing and learn and have a gist of an idea about how the questions will come during the interview and how you can answer them and what basics you need to have while you answer them. So after the course outline, we can move on to the various add-on topics that we will learn during this course. The first one is, what is ETL and why do you need ETL? This is the basic question, and this is the basic thing that we need to learn while we are doing the ETL training. The second one is how the ETL processes in the data warehouse. So data warehouse, it is the most important term for ETL testing. After that, we can look on to the best practices and the ETL tools, and then we have many add-on subtopics. Though those are more detailed ones that we will be covering, like data modeling and types of data model, OLAP and OLTP, which is very important, and what are the differences between OLAP versus OLTP. Then we will do dimensional modeling, which is an important topic that is asked in the interviews. And also, we can do with star and snowflake schema. Schema table is an important constituent of the whole topic. And we under the schema, we have to learn about the facts and the dimension tables and the various STD types. And then we will learn about normalization and how denormalization is done between tables. And they next come two important terms, that is data mart and data lake, which is correlated to the data warehouse. And then we will learn what is the difference between the three, data warehouse versus data mart versus data lake. And then we can learn about business intelligence basics, which will be helpful for BI reporting that we have in our course outline. And then two extra topics are there, little advanced, but it will, these types of questions nowadays comes in the interviews, data mining and data reconciliation. So for this whole course, there will be some additional course resources that I will provide you with, which you can reference and look at it, and that will help you to gain more knowledge and which will help you to gain more insight about the whole course, and it will be like an extra information you can gain from these resources. So the first resource we will look at is reference documentation that are based on the topics discussed. And we can also look at some websites or web resources that will help us to further help understand this ETL testing better. And then third is a very important thing, how to create the resume. If you are applying for a job for ETL tester, you have to know how to create the how the resume should be for applying. That is the first thing an interviewer will look at, how is your resume before he even asks you the interview questions. So it's very important. And at the end, for a practical query making in SQL, we can show you snapshots of the SQL tool or even the tool itself we can use to show a few examples of how SQL is done in real life. Next, we can move on to projects. So in projects, basically the projects will be one of the most important uh, part of our training, because ultimately we have to learn how the real-time projects works apart from gaining the theoretical knowledge. So I have talked about two types of projects. One is banking and another retail project. So banking project can be of various types, like insurance, credit insurance, debit insurance, lot of types of banking. So I won't go into further into so much details, but we will cover banking as a generic domain while doing the projects. So in the projects, we can learn about what are the overview, the insights, the processes, and the relation to the real life scenarios. While doing a project, we have to understand that the real life scenario is a very important while doing your organizational project, because if you don't relate your work with a real life scenario, then you can't apply it in real life. For example, in banking project, how does a just to give you a gist, how does a bank work? The bank has a UI interface, like the computer where the bank employee sits and interacts with the customer. But behind the UI, there is a database also that feeds the data into the UI, which then the customer can interact with. So the bank can store all its details, records like customer name, customer address, phone numbers, etc. of bank accounts in the backend databases. That data is fed into the front end UI, and the bank employee controls the UI and then allows the UI to be interactable with the customer. So the customer can, if you go to the banking website or application, you can go there and you can update. For example, you want to update your address, so you log into the banking application. You click on update. When you click on the update, the you are just interacting with the front end. But in the back end, that that is sending a request to the data storage. There is database which is the data storage, where it will fetch the records, and it will give the output back to the screen. Then we are able to see, after you click on update address, you are able to see the existing address. Then you can edit it. Again, you click on update, then it will send an request back to the database, which will in turn fetch the output from the database, and it will show you on the screen, and it will show you that the bank details are saved successfully. So this is how basically a banking real-time scenario works, and we can link it to how the ETL takes part in it. So the ETL is present in between the graphical user interface and the database. So it acts as a connection point. Sometimes, in most cases, ETL is basically related to the databases. Like it's the backend job is mostly related to the ETL testing, where we use different kinds of tools to transform the data. So, like in some cases, data transformation are needed, or data migration. So, data transformation can be needed in various scenarios. For example, for an employee, for an customer of the bank, his bank account is expiring or his bank account has negative balance. So, what the bank system will do in the database, it want to remove that customer record. So, it's no longer required, since in the account calculation, since the customer has negative balance. So in order to do that, they have to transform the data, and that data will be transformed, that is stored in a table. So you can come to the concept of table in databases. So tables are basically the places where data is stored. Apart from this is just an insight of how the banking project works. And of course, if you're in an organization, you will face a real-time banking application where you have to apply the ETL tools and do the testing, the validations, like whether the scenarios that the client wants from you are matching or not. Using that ETL tool, you have to validate that. This was one example for the banking project. Apart from that, we can go to the second type of project, that is the retail project. In retail project, we will deal with like retail companies or e-commerce websites, for example, Flipkart, Amazon, and we can also deal with higher brands like Nike, Adidas. They can be the clients too. So there also the same structure of the project will be same: overview, insights, processes, and relation. So there you have to understand how the retail domain works. Each type of domain works differently. For example, the type of testing required in a banking domain may vary from that is required in a retail domain. Since in banking domain we deal mostly with records and numbers, transactions, transactions mostly, that will be more in number compared to the retail. Of course, the retail websites, there of course two domains can coexist with each other, like we see in e-commerce website. in Flipkart, when you make the payment gateway directly connects to a banking application. There is a payment gateway created by the banking applications themselves. That is what you can say, that is uh, hired or that is licensed by the retail projects for making the customers transactions. So in retail projects, basically, if we look at Flipkart, I can give you an example of BI reporting where in one page there are a lot of products. So basically, you can filter the products according to the various categories, brand, sub brand, what type of price you want, what category of you want, what color, everything you can choose it. So this is one type of BI, one scenario where BI report testing is used. So I hope this the projects that I discuss with you will help you and gain an overview of how the real-time organization projects works. And then after the projects, we can move to the lab setup. So for lab setup, basically the prerequisites will be, of course, a high-speed internet and a desktop or laptop as you choose. But and the internet shouldn't break, otherwise it will be a big problem for you. And apart from that, system requirements are shown on the screen. Like you need Windows 7 or above and 500 GB 16. These are the optimal requirements. So after the lab setup, we come to the mock interviews, which is basically the main objective apart from gaining knowledge about ETL testing is how to clear the interview. Of course, everyone is applying for the job position, but one who impresses the interviewer or the who shows in-depth knowledge to the in the answers will be selected for the interview. So in the mock interviews, we'll prepare some in interviews, dummy interviews, like basically questions, and we will try to know their response and try to evaluate how they are faring and whether their answers are according to the industry standards or whether they are falling behind. We will try to identify their knowledge gap and where in which areas of ETL testing. So mock interviews is a very important part of the part of the process after the course is done. During the course, since in the mock interview questions will be quite different from only the theoretical knowledge, because in interviews practical questions are also asked along with the theoretical questions. So we need to learn in depth and we need to understand the basics and the concepts. Otherwise, the solving the application based questions will be really difficult. So after the mock interviews, certifications. So there are a lot of certifications available on the market, right? Those are given by some organization that is standardized by the government or some international organizations or national organizations, or there are some private vendors who offer certifications which will carry value if taken and if successfully cleared. So in on the internet you will find a lot of certifications that are available, but among them around like not all of them are valuable. You need to choose carefully which will add value to your profile and which you can use to gain advantage over others during the interview. So the first one is CAST. It's a certified associate in software testing by QAI. So this one is given by the QAI, the University of Florida, and it has real value to it since it's given by a reputed organization. And if you cleared it, this is a basic level certified associate, but the questions will be uh, very highly dependent on the basics, and also application based questions will be there. So in order to crack these certifications, in order to pass it, you need to know the basics and you need to know how to apply the basics to the application based questions. So the second certification which is most commonly taken, is ICEDQ foundation level exam that is done by International Standardization Testing Qualification Board. This exam is the most commonly taken, and nowadays it has become really difficult to crack since it's so much they are giving theoretical based questions but so much in depth. So if this is done, it will help a lot. Like you can get advantage over other interviewers, and then in the end, like you can do the database foundation course that is by Oracle. Oracle is a private vendor here. So for Oracle database foundation, databases you need to learn Oracle. Oracle is also a type of database. We will learn more during the course on like how the different types of database are there, like SQL, Teradata, Oracle. Like so, Oracle have its own syntax which varies little bit from the SQL syntax. So this course will help you a lot since Oracle is a reputed organization, and it will make your CV look more bright and impressive. After the certification is done, we can see this is the course completion certificate of this ETL testing training, which you will undergo through. Give you a certificate of achievement to show a proof that you have met the standards of the course and you have passed it successfully. So it will be very valuable for you to achieve this certificate, and it will help you a lot to show your standards and through this to the when applying for other organizations. So I think we are doing quite well in this, and and I can show you like the basics of by diagram basically what is data warehouse that we are going to learn and what is ETL. So collected a lot of diagrams. So you can move on to this diagram. As you can see, what is data warehouse? Where does it stand and how does it act and where it is placed in the process? Just an overview. ERP and CRM, these are basically data sources. These data sources will be fed into the ETL process. So ETL is basically extract, transform, load, where you extract the data from the sources, transform into something else depending on the requirements, and then load it into the target database. So ETL stands in between the source database and the target database. The database can be in the form of anything. Mostly it is in the form of tables, but it can be other database sources also, as we can see. So this is the basic process where ETL comes in, and we will know more about other tools in ETL which we can use, like Informatica, which takes the data from the source and then transforms and then load into the target database. The target database is here basically nothing but data warehouse where all the transformed data is collected in a collective way, and data warehouse is huge in size, consisting of big amount of data. And apart from that, we can see the second diagram also. It makes it more clear that even data, what are the data sources? It can be database, it can be spreadsheet, or it can be other data sources like CVV, CSR file, which is fed into the ETL process. The transform data will form the data warehouse, and that data warehouse will be interacted upon or consumed by the user or the customers basically. Wherein the customers will interact with the data. So apart from that, uh, means we can know about more about ETL testing as we will go more into the course, and I can show you another since SQL is a big part of our training, we can show you an SQL comment, a snapshot of the SQL comment. Like this, this is a example of a query select top 1000 and all those. This is a total query that is written basically to select the top 1000 records from a table. So here a lot of things will come like schema, how to select the table from the schema and how to select the particular columns, how to select the number of columns that you want. So, and this is the result. Underneath we can see the results. After hitting the query, that tool gave back the results of the records, the top 1000 records that you wanted. And another example for query you can see. So this is a table where there is a name, surname, lesson, age, pass mark. So in this, if we use the SQL queries, if we want to select the name and the surname from the student is a table here. So we have to write this query, select name, surname from students. So we will move see the data syntaxes later. For the time being, we can know what is SQL basically, just a gist. And then after hitting the query, you will see the subsequent results like the name and the surname column from the students has come, and we can see the following results that are present in the table. So this is all. Like I wanted to give you a gist of what we will do during that whole training, and at the end, we can look into the ETL process a little bit more and see this diagram. So we can see another SQL example that will your help you to gain a clear understanding. Like this is an SQL statement. Select region.name from regions. Regions is a table and region name is a column name. So under region name, column name, there will be various data. So Europe, America, Asia, these are various data under the name. And when you hit the query, it it's a request to the RDBMS server. We will know about all these technical terms later. For now, RDBMS server is like a database we can see. So it hits a request to the database with the query to know, extract this data, and the query also outputs the data as we can see by the region name. These are the records that the query outputted. So I guess this is a good, this diagrams was a good understanding of what basically we are dealing with, and in further subsequent sessions we can learn more about in depth about ETL testing and all. So after you have gained knowledge about what is ETL testing and all, as discussed, we will get the course certification completion certificate, which is like a proof that you are able to meet up the standards that is required for this training course, and then you are hopefully you will be ready for the interviews and the future other opportunities that may come in this in this type of like in ETL testing. And then we can move on to the next slide, which is basically thank you.